3, 2, 1, and we're live. Stewart Lee, how's it going?
Very well, my friend Jack. Very well.
Good. I was going to say it's really good to have you on the first episode today. However, it's been the world's biggest ball ache to get everything working. We've actually been
taking a while, isn't it?
like an hour and a half. Well, we got it done, so that's a win. Just a quick reference for everybody. We've been thinking about doing a podcast for quite some time, and we've got lots of really interesting guests lined up, and of course we've got the most interesting guest ever
me.
first. Yeah, exactly, after you. Yes, big boots to fill. Stuart, for those that don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Stewart Bang Bang Lee, otherwise known. What's my purpose? I'm local Exeter lad. I've done a lot of work around addiction and mental health, and I guess we're here to have a discussion and hear my thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, that sounds good. We know each other in real life. We actually just got back from the gym together today, a couple of hours ago, and an awful lot of our conversations, when we're in the car or out and about getting food or whatever, stem around sort of mental health, meditation, recovery, talking about, your past, which is a very, very spicy past, mate, if you don't mind me saying. And but it makes...
I've got a colourful past.
Yeah, exactly. But it makes for interesting stories and, more importantly, interesting lessons that, people can take from your experience and either enrich their lives with it or avoid going down sort of a similar path. I'm fascinated by the process of mental health, then turning into addiction, then turning into even worse mental health, and then the recovery process, and ultimately the awakening and becoming new. And I think that's a really interesting topic for us to discuss today.
Sure.
So what was it? How many years ago when sort of you were at your worst, and where was your sort of head at? What were you up to? I just need to go set the computer up. One sec. It didn't take long, mate, for the first hiccup, did it?
No, we all good?
At all. Yeah, it's just sorted.
Okay. What was the question?
Where were you at with, how many years ago would you say you were recovering?
It's kind of like it's kind of a twofold recovery because, so just over nearly 12 and a half years ago, it was drinking and drug use that took me to a rock bottom. And then I recovered from drug addiction. But then for sort of 5 years after that, I carried on just drinking, thinking that alcohol was acceptable. And then it was 7 years ago in May that I gave up alcohol completely. And I've been clean and sober for just over 7 years. But I mean, each point, sort of 12 and a half years ago, there was rock bottoms there that were terrible, horrendous. And then 5 years later, there was rock bottoms again, maybe, different types of rock bottoms, but not as horrific as when it was, drink and drugs. But it took me to a place where I thought death was a better option. I would go to bed most nights not wanting to wake up, and took attempts on my own life a couple of times.
Wow.
So to go for, if something's taken you to that depth of rock bottom, I've got a lot of friends who have committed suicide through mental health addiction, some very recently, and this mental health addiction is a killer. Not enough people talk about it, which is why, when you asked me to do this, it was a no-brainer, because I've always said you don't look down on people unless you're helping them up. And that's, I'm hoping that my experience in what I've been through can be, like you say, lessons for people to learn.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, that's it's a pretty good introduction, and I'll thank you again for coming on and actually speaking openly about it. And that kind of does the fact that you can do that does actually lean towards the idea that recovery can lead to a completely new person, as I'm sure you'd agree, because I don't think for once in your past you thought that you would ever be this guy who could be and talk so openly about this topic.
When there's so much I've learned about myself over the recovery process. I would hear other people talk about their recovery when I first started on my journey, and I would look at these people and I'd think, how do they know so much about themselves? These people are so clever. And little did I know that that's the stuff that I'm going to learn over the time period. All this, anything that I say that's slightly intellectual or sounds clever, this isn't stuff that I knew back when I was drinking and using drugs. This is all stuff that I've learned since then. If I can do it, then there's no reason why other people can't do it.
No, that's cool. What was the what you said, you're drinking an awful lot. How much were you drinking when you were at your worst? Was it kind of like every single day, just on it?
It was. I'm a firm believer that you don't have to drink every day to be an alcoholic. It's more sort of what happens to you when you drink. So, but it's hard to explain it if you don't understand it. It's a mental thing. So I could go days where I'm not drinking because I've got a girlfriend who doesn't want me to be drinking every day. So I would try my best to kind of keep her happy, or keep parents happy or whatever, or there'd be some reason for me not to drink on a particular day. But all throughout that day, my mind is occupied with the thought of when I can have the next drink. So there were times when I drank every day. When I was at my worst with the drink and drugs, there were periods of doing it every day. And sometimes it would be kind of non-stop because I kind of tricked myself into becoming a drug addict, because what I found is I loved alcohol from the beginning, and that was always my go-to. And then when I discovered drugs, I discovered that the drugs would help kind of level me out and sober me up. So I could go out drinking, then do a few lines of gear, then carry on drinking a bit more, then do a few more lines of gear. And it was, at some points it came like a 24-hour thing.
I see what you mean. And also, like, not only was each individual substance a dependency for you, they also depended on each other. You needed to hit hard drugs in order to make the other fully work for you, so you can stay up and keep drinking, and then vice versa. Which again, that's a spiral, right? That can proper get out of hand for an awful lot of people.
And then it's like, if you're constantly taking uppers, then you take downers so that you can go and get some sleep for a couple of days. So you buy in prescription medicine on the street, buying Valium, things like that. And it's a slippery slope. I think, one of the things I wanted to sort of emphasize on is that addiction, I firmly believe that everybody is on the addiction scale somewhere. So I'm very thankful that I discovered that I was addicted to drinking drugs, because that's so outwardly destructive on your life that it can be seen and you recognize it as a problem. So I think everyone's an addict in a certain way. So for me, addiction is like not feeling complete, like always feeling like there's something missing, and you can overcome that feeling by using an outside thing or substance to fix how you feel. So that can be in any kind of form. That can be drink, drugs, sex, gambling, shopping, eating disorders. All these things are all the same. So everybody's on that kind of addiction scale somewhere. I just took things to the extreme. Not everybody does. But the reason that drinking drugs is so destructive for me as an addict, if you want to fix how you feel and you go and eat a bar of chocolate, you eat one bar of chocolate and then you probably leave it. Eating one bar of chocolate doesn't then make you want to eat another 50 straight after. Whereas with alcohol and drugs, for me, my brain works differently as an alcoholic. So
Yeah.
I'm having a drink to fix how I feel. I need to level myself out to have a drink. But then what happens is that drink sets off a craving in my head that I just can't stop. And there's no off switch, so that's what I mean about the difference between drinking every day. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter. It's not how often you drink, it's what happens to you when you drink. So
I see.
For me, once I'd had one, I couldn't stop. There would always be some other external force that would stop me drinking, whether it be I got thrown out of the pub, I ran out of money, I got knocked out, got arrested, the missus went mental at me and told me to stop. It was always, it was never because I wanted to stop drinking.
Yeah,
it was only because something made me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Everyone's on the addiction scale and uses certain things to fix how they feel. Everybody's got that in them. But if drinking drugs becomes your vice, and you're an alcoholic of my type, then once you've started, that's it. There's no off switch.
Wow. What made you? When was the turning point? Was there any sort of big influence in your life? Any big event? What was it that made you go, you know what? It's time to make the change.
Initially, when it was drinking drugs, it was I was slowly going down the rabbit hole of going into big crime. So to fund my habit, I started dealing so that I could afford to do what I was doing. And consequences got greater and greater. The habit got worse. I was a mess. I was present physically, but not mentally. Like there was nothing going on upstairs anymore. Consequences were getting greater. I got close to being arrested a couple of times with quite big amounts of cocaine. So if I'd got caught, it would have been, I'd have been looking at a couple of years in prison.
Wow.
Minimum. And also the consequence of getting large groups of people from big cities in the Midlands coming down and making threats against you and your family. I woke up one day and thought, if I carry on the route I'm going, I'm either going to be in jail or dead very soon. A little bit before that, I'd attempted to take my own life. So in some ways, it's strange because I didn't think life mattered to me that much. But then something made me kind of wake up one day and realize that, I had to change my ways. Otherwise, it would have been jail or death.
Wow. That's insane. So what was the I know you can't sort of talk about the specific kind of recovery plan that you went into for obvious reasons. But what was the kind of the process in developing a more sort of how did you get your mind right? How did you get back on track? Because I imagine there's a big realization process of actually needing to admit to yourself, I have a problem. And I imagine for most, that's the toughest step to take.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, initially the drugs, I took myself away from Exeter for a while. I went to a kind of treatment centre where you stay there, and they kind of it's you've got to be clean and sober when you're there. So I took myself there initially to get off the drugs because I thought that was the only problem. And that was, when it comes, this isn't the same for everybody because a lot of people struggle really, really hard with staying clean of drugs. I mean, I think I went to this treatment center with the mindset of I'm going to stop this now. And I stopped taking drugs by segregating myself away from the people, you know, and I think you can kind of section yourself away from drugs and drug dealers and other people that are using drugs, so you can kind of make that break away from it. With alcohol, it's a lot more difficult because alcohol is seen as socially acceptable.
Well, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, when we were driving back from the gym earlier, it's a few miles drive. How many pubs did we drive past?
Yeah, sure. But not only that, it's like, you know, even if you try and stay away from pubs, you know, even if you go to a supermarket and go shopping, you could say to yourself, I'm not going to go down the drinks aisle, but they're promoting that stuff on the ends of other aisles. So it's like you can't even, you know, you can't avoid it anywhere you go. It's everywhere. And it took me a long time to realize that alcohol was also a problem, because when I was drinking and using drugs, most of my family kind of didn't want nothing to do with me. I wasn't trusted to be in my sister's house. My parents had enough. They, you know, pushed me away. You know, don't blame them at all. You know, I was not a nice person, and they, you know, nobody trusted me to be around them or their children, which was fine. But when I came out of the treatment center, even to my own family, none of them kind of really looked at my drinking and thought that's an issue. You know, I was always the one at family parties that always got a little bit too drunk and sometimes made a show of myself, things like that, you know. But because I wasn't using drugs, I was kind of like accepted back in again. So family kind of accepted me back into their lives, not fully as they have now, because I was still drinking, but they opened the doors again to me. So like, even so, you know, to everybody else, if you go to your doctor and say you're just drinking, they're fine with it. You know, if you say to someone, I don't take drugs anymore, they'd go, well done. You're not supposed to. That's normal. You say to people, I don't drink, they think it's weird. Yeah, because it's such a socially acceptable thing for people to do these days.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, the amount of times I tell people I don't drink. And you know, I don't drink because I've had a problem with it. I just don't drink because I'm real bad with it, man. I get proper bad hangovers, and I'm not really tough with like feeling ill and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't drink because I don't really fancy it. And even I now have friends going like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't drink?" And then I imagine if you're an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic or whatever, having that kind of pressure from friends and close people, like, "What do you mean you don't drink?" Well, it's not helpful at all.
One of the weirdest things, though, is like when you first go on that journey of stopping drinking, in your mind, I think that I initially think that anywhere I go, if I stand in a bar with a Coke, everyone's going to ask me why I'm not drinking. And I'm going to wonder why they're asking me that question. When the truth of the matter is, no one actually gives a fuck. People walk past you with a soft drink in your hand and they don't ask you why you're not drinking. Because people, I'm not that important. Yeah. People don't actually care that I'm not drinking.
Yeah. I mean, like I've always said for a long time, especially in my meditation course that I've created for the YouTube channel, is that one of the leading causes to piss poor mental health is people having a strong care for people's opinion of them, and the ability to simply not give a fuck about what people think of you is unbelievably releasing and relieving. And I guess that's also a part of recovery, right? Is building that level of equanimity and level of kind of positive nonchalance to disregard it, what everybody's opinions on you, because that's when you can then focus on yourself and change without any of those sort of strongly held opinions getting in the way.
I thought I was the center of the universe. I thought my life was the most important thing to everybody, and everybody cared about what I was doing. When actually the truth of it is, no one cared what I was doing. It was only my ego. I think I've said this to you before, but addiction is like very fear-based. When I first came into recovery, people were telling me, it's a fear-based illness. I'd be like, what do you mean? I'm not afraid of anything. I thought, but it's not. It's about there's three fundamental fears for me: is the fear of not getting what I want, the fear of losing what I've already got, or the fear of getting found out. And that's, I lived my life in that constantly, and the only way that I knew how to shut that feeling off was to get a drink, or to, you know. But taking it back to what I was saying about it being addiction being in everybody, you know, before I picked up a drink and drug, I didn't know this at the time, but I can see this now. Long before I picked up a drink or a drug, I was displaying addictive behaviors. So I would be not happy unless I had the toys that I wanted, or the sweets that I wanted, or the TV that I wanted to watch, or there was always something that I was trying to fix myself with something.
Chasing
from
happy.
a very young age.
Just chasing happy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, there's like I felt like there was something missing my whole life. I felt like I didn't belong on this world. It was like I didn't fit in with anything. I could be in a room full of all my family, and I would still feel like I didn't fit in, like I didn't belong there. And I would spend a lot of my childhood like escaping that. Where, you know, my mum used to say to me, "Oh, you were an angel as a child. You used to just go and entertain yourself in your bedroom for hours on end, and we wouldn't even know you were here." And that's because I was away in my own little world. I created my own little world with my toys, whatever, set it all up. And
So
that was a long...
essentially, like, you thought you were the black sheep, so you became the black sheep, and then you segregated yourself, and your behavior reflected that. And then obviously you continued that into your adult life as you got older.
I mean, what it was is like, as you get in, you know, when you get to teenage years and you're a teenage boy and desperately trying to fit in, you know, I thought I had to be the most popular in school, get the girlfriends, you know, all the fix me things. And then as soon as I discovered alcohol, it was like that.
Yeah.
It, you know, I'm fearful now talking to you like this, you know. I know that 2 cans of Stella would get rid of that fear instantly. You know, it's an instant fear remover.
Yeah.
But I know now that once I start, there's no stopping.
Of course, just snowball,
So,
and you know that snowball's waiting there for you. And I guess that's a big driver for you. Being awareness just kind of solves everything, really, in a sense. If you're just aware of what's waiting for you around the corner, you just don't turn there. You just don't go there. You don't turn that corner.
Awareness and acceptance. You know,
Yeah.
You also have to accept the fact that you are what you are.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you... So,
yeah, man,
where were we?
So yeah, lots to digest. It's a really interesting part, but you know, let's raise the vibe a little bit. So 7 years, Stewie Balls 2.0, and
yeah, man.
So you haven't had a drink or done anything else for 7 years. What's life now in comparison? Both from your physical health, your mental health, and your general day-to-day sort of like being back in society, that now you can reflect on it sensibly.
Mental health is always still an issue. You know, I do a lot of work with other people. I'm starting to do a lot of work with my employers to work with other people. You know, I was talking to someone at work about it today. I said, when you hear people say, "I've got mental health," everybody has mental health. It's the same as everybody has physical health. If you injure yourself, you've got something wrong with your physical health. If you're not in a good place mentally, you have poor mental health. You know, everybody has it, but it's whether it's in good condition or not. As an addict, as an alcoholic and drug user, I think my mental health has always got to be kept an eye on. I'm constantly checking my mails. I think you were in the car with me the other day when I had to phone one of my friends, and I was like, I had this thing, I've done this, and I want to check my motives on it. Am I acting out of ego? And I'm constantly doing things like that, you know. So, yeah, my mental health is always a big thing still. But my life, you know, in my worst days, it took me to a place where I had nowhere to live. I was staying on people's sofas. I had no real friends, no family, a bag of clothes, and a bad habit. That's pretty much all I had. You know, and now I've got a life that people would look at and maybe be envious of. You know, I've managed to turn that around. You know, I used to think that So I trained my brain for nearly 20 years to be selfish, dishonest, greedy, manipulative. You know, I thought the world owed me something, and I went out trying to take I thought I was living my life the right way, and I'll take what I think I deserve. And it got me nowhere. It got me to a place where I wanted to die. But no one showed me a better option that seemed appealing. I didn't know any other way. You know, if someone said, "Have you ever thought of not drinking or using drugs?" I'd be like, "What are you talking about? Why would I want to do that?" But what recovery's taught me is that being a man of your word, being a nice person, trying to help others, not being selfish, greedy, dishonest. By doing those things, I've managed to create a better life than what I've ever had.
If somebody came to you when you were at your worst and described how life would be, like you would have this life if you just do it, would you have believed them? You know, how
No.
would you think you would have responded?
No, I'd have thought they were mad.
Really?
I'd have thought they must have been on drugs to think that.
Wow.
You know, but you know, obviously everybody wants success and everybody wants to have nice material things and stuff like that. But you know, for me, it's not that material things come and go. You know, we work, money comes in, the money goes straight back out. We pay rent, whatever, bills, all that kind of stuff. Material things, blasé, you know, doesn't matter. You know, you know what I'm like with trainers. I've got lots of pairs of trainers now. They're just material things. The biggest thing that I've gained out of recovery.
Hang on, sorry. How many pairs of trainers? Can we just get this on record? No. Okay.
What ones? The ones that are in my shoe rack, probably about 12 pairs.
Right. Okay. The ones in your shoe rack. Because your shoe rack only takes 12. Is that?
Because I had to make space for my son's shoes as well.
Okay. Yeah, your son's shoes.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of an addiction with buying trainers.
No, it's all right, man. It's a bit of a healthier addiction, you know.
Yeah,
At least that one's not going to make you stay up all night, is it?
They're not going to kill me either, you know. But right, yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah. So the best thing that I've got out of recovery is the fact that I've got relationships with my family back, and I've got I can be a good role model to my children. I think most of the time. I can be a good role model to my niece and nephew. You know, I wasn't, like I said, like family things, back when I was drinking and using, I was present physically, but not mentally. So I would go to birthday parties and I didn't really want to be there, you know. But I've got relationships with my family again, you know, it's that to me is something that can't, you know, money can't buy that.
No.
You know, material things can't buy that. And it's a true sign of where you come from. So like back in my dark days, I wasn't even trusted to be in my sister's house.
Wow.
Because I was dishonest, I was a thief, you know. I was a thief. But the way I describe it is my intentions were never bad. So there was an incident years ago where at my mum's house, when I was staying at my mum's, there was money boxes on the side for all the grandkids, and I took money out of the money boxes with the full intention of, when I get paid, I'll put that money back in. But I needed some money that day to get a drink or whatever I needed for that day.
Wow.
And my intention was always to borrow it. But then when I had the money to replace it, the drink or the drug was still too important.
Yeah.
So it didn't get replaced. Then when they found out that I'd done it, to them it was like I'd just stolen the money. My intention was still, I know, but I was going to put it back. But they don't see that. They don't.
No, of course.
You don't get judged on your intention. You get judged on your actions.
Yeah, and of course, I imagine now you borrowing that money is like inconceivable for you now, right? Because that's just not who you are now.
No.
And if it's not who you are now, it wasn't who you were then. It was, you know, your addictions driving your behavior through your experience of being an alcoholic. And now that you can separate yourself between being those two types of people, does that allow you to be a bit more compassionate towards people with addictions now, because you know actually that's not actually who they are, they're just being driven by their
Definitely.
addiction and their habits?
Definitely. I'm never. I try and work with a lot of other alcoholics, and I've got a lot of friends who are alcoholics and addicts. People that try and stop, they relapse. They do some bad things, but I never get angry at them. I get angry at the illness, because I know it's the illness that's driving people to behave the way that they do.
Yeah.
And it is awful, man. But I think what a lot of people have to realize as well, people watching this might not realize, but someone who's an alcoholic and a drug addict doesn't have to be like someone who's low down, scum of the street.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They're not all street level drunks or addicts.
Yeah.
There are, most of the people I know that are all, the illness doesn't discriminate. You could have someone who's a doctor working for the NHS that could be a drug addict. You can have a lawyer who's an alcoholic.
Well, I can think
people.
of one or two people who I know own relatively successful businesses, and I know they drink pretty much all day, every day. I know they actually take like a bottle of whiskey to their office as well. So they come in all different walks of life, but obviously the ones that get all of the attention are of course the ones causing the most disruption. And then of course that's how alcoholics are then viewed. Like, it's like all alcoholics are these people, that happens in all identity politics, to be honest, whether even it's not even in addiction. I mean, there's a stereotype for pretty much every habit and behavior nowadays.
Yeah, like when I first got into recovery, I felt like I didn't belong, because I heard stories from other people who were saying, how low down the scale they'd gone, and I thought, when I decided to give up drinking, I had a girlfriend, we had kids together, we had a house, I had a job. I hadn't lost everything yet, so I kind of felt like I didn't belong. But it's like I said, it's someone in the area said to me, it's like a lift, that's slowly going down. That's how addiction is. You can get off at any point. You don't have to hit the bottom before you get off. You can get off anywhere. And it took me a long time to realize, I felt like a bit of a fraud, because I'm, hearing real like stories from people. But then I thought, if I look back 5 years before that, I was that low, when I was doing drink and drugs.
How hard was lockdown for you during, obviously, I don't want to say the name of the virus, because actually there's some videos being dropped off YouTube left, right and center, but how was sort of lockdown for you? Was that kind of like a challenging time, or?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I do a lot of things to look after my mental health and keep my addiction under control, and to have it was literally in an instant. You've got the Prime Minister coming out making an announcement, this is what's happening, and literally within 24 hours everything that I enjoy doing has had to stop. And everything that keeps me well has had to stop. A lot of it's moved online, so you can still get I can still get recovery stuff online. I've still got a mental health group that I go to weekly, that it was a physical meeting, but it's now online. So, and meeting new friends and taking up new hobbies, that's
spearfishing with the boys.
spearfishing with the boys.
We really need to get you a good dive. We really need to get you a good dive. And to be honest,
it's coming.
Craig, our other friend in real life, he needs to shoot a fish this season.
I need to shoot my gun.
You do need to shoot your gun.
To try and hit a fish.
But small steps and all that. What has been the through recovery? Have you had any kind of like influential people in your because I've always believed support and mentors are extremely important, whether it's with career or spiritually or creatively. I still mentors and finding people that you can trust to give you good guidance. Is that important when trying to go through a process of recovery?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like when I first came in, I'm not going to go into details of who or where it is,
No,
but
of course, yeah.
anybody who wants to, anyone who thinks they've got a problem with alcohol or drugs and wants to talk about it, then feel free to come and talk to me, because I'm there to help anybody, and that's because when I decided to give up, there's lots of people who had walked the path before me, and they'd done the work they needed to do to get rid of this obsession to drink, and they passed that knowledge on to me, and now I could only keep it if I give it away. So my role now is to help the next person.
I like that, yeah. And sometimes the best way of learning is to teach.
For
because
sure.
you reaffirm obviously all of those good habits and positive ways of thinking. Keep going
helping, and I never realized in the beginning, because I trained myself to be this selfish, dishonest person, I never knew that being nice and doing things for other people would make me feel good. So helping someone else with their problem, if they've got an addiction problem, helping someone else helps them, but it also helps me. Because it makes me feel good, and this is an inside job, there's no material things out in the world that are going to fix me. I've learned that now. It's an inside job. I have to feel good on the inside and then project that outwards. Doesn't work the other way around. So helping other people is the number one thing,
and that's spiritually developing, right? And for an awful lot, like that's really tough for men to do. We are indoctrinated really from a young age to start to suppress our feelings and not just display our emotions. And
the whole macho thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Man
exactly.
that
whole like strange concept of being an alpha male, like to the point where the term alpha male has been shrouded in just being a dickhead and being an asshole, and people think that's like the alpha male. To me, like the alpha male is just a fucking good bloke, who looks after his family, who's compassionate, who loves first and gets stuff done. And who is.
But that's what we're taught from a young age, isn't
exactly.
it? It's the competitive nature of everything you're taught when you're growing up is about being the best at something, being the best at running, being the best at a sport, being the best student, and men take that more. Men, I think, are more competitive, and they take that into teenage and adult life, and it's like. If you go out if you went out on the town now and saw a group of guys out on the town, they're all trying to outdo each other to impress the ladies.
Oh yeah, they've all got their tight shirts
around
we saw it in
the gym today, didn't we?
No, the gym, mate. It's just ego city, isn't it? Like. And it's all the oof, and then they look at you, and these dudes that came up to us after they were banging their tries in, and they're like, oh,
because they want to look over and they want to see that you're looking at them and you're impressed with what they're doing.
Yeah, but you know what? I laugh about it. I was one of those motherfuckers at one point, like 7 years ago. And there is a process, and it's a beautiful process, kind of an awakening, where you just look back, and at some point you're just like, this shit doesn't matter anymore. And it feels amazing when you stop putting so much agency into these weird, like, what are people thinking of me? I need to look great. I need to look amazing. And eventually that leads to unhappiness, because you can't get everything that you want in order to look the best and be the best in everybody else's eyes. So then people start feeling inadequate, right? A
good thing someone said to me once is, why are you worrying about what they think of you? What they think of you is none of your business.
Exactly. It's true. Was it you had the conversation with, was there like thousands of different versions of you that exist in the perception of others?
Oh God, yeah.
What? That's a fucking horror show.
Isn't it?
Horror show of a sentence, man.
imagine you're so worried about what people think of you. I spent so many years like in fear of being the what I thought people wanted me to be. If you walk down the high street on a busy Saturday, every single person that looks at you has a different perception of you.
Yeah.
And and that's people that don't even know you. So
Yeah,
you
it's
think
true.
people that do know you, even, you know, if you ask some people in Exeter who I am, and what I'm like, you'll get a very, very varied range of answers.
Yeah, same, 100%. You know, you piss people off, you make other people happy, you show people love and compassion, you show other people aggression, and you know, it's just how it is.
I pissed a lot of people off, you know.
Mm.
A lot of them probably don't like me. But you know, like I said, you know, what they think of me is not my business. You know,
Exactly. Let's talk about, because I know this is a topic you're passionate about. What do you think of the current system and how governments and healthcare and stuff support the recovery of addicts? Is it a good system, or otherwise?
mate, the mental health service in this country is fucking diabolical.
Really?
It's the worst.
How so?
People.
I'm just gonna wipe my forehead down. It's like 30 degrees in this room, and I got like serious forehead shine going on.
It's because you've got that pink light behind you. I'm gutted.
Do you like it?
Yeah,
It changes colours. I can't be asked to get out though. It goes like blue, it goes orange. Well, look, you know, that's all about.
It's the same colour as my vest I was wearing in the gym.
It's just love and compassion, that right? Yeah, okay, oh, yeah, your vest in the gym, man. You're rocking it out. I reckon that's why those guys felt compelled to come over and flex in your face and talk to you about their triceps. You know,
maybe.
So anyway, the current system. What's wrong with the mental health system at the moment in the UK?
It's shocking. It's underfunded. I mean, I've seen it from the bottom level. So when you're talking about child mental health services, you know, my ex had two older children who we were trying to get them help for a long time, because they had a lot of behavioural issues. We were trying to help them through the child mental health service, just trying to get an appointment with them, and trying to get any help. It's like the tactics they try and teach you are just like, if a child's autistic or on the spectrum anywhere, the tactics they try and give you just ain't going to work. So I saw it from a child perspective that it wasn't working. And I see it time and time again. People who are desperate, people who are suicidal, people that don't want to live anymore, and they're crying out for help. But it always seems to be too late before anything gets done. You know, not going to go into details, but you know, I had a friend who attempted to take his own life, and then saw the mental health team the day after. They got him sober because he was sober. Initially they said to him, "We won't see you whilst you're still drunk, so you have to get sober, then we'll see you." So he gets sober for a day so he can go and see the mental health team. Because he's in there sober, they say, "You're okay now because you're sober," and send him back out on his way. Within a month, he killed himself.
Yeah, and this is recently, right?
This is recently. You know, when you're saying to an alcoholic, "We can't see you until you're sober," and then when they are sober, you say to them, "You're okay now. Look, you're sober."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, of course they're okay today because they're not fucking drinking, because you've told them that you won't see them if they are.
I see.
But then, you know, the NHS, the health service, I've got nothing against the staff at all. They do their best, you know, in a world that's massively in a system that's massively underfunded, and
Well,
it's
and,
not
and, it's,
their
and
fault.
it's compartmentalized as well, right? I mean, these decisions for mental health funding and process and efficiency comes from the top, basically. Bureaucrats in suits, on six-figure salaries. They're the ones that make the decisions, how the staff need to behave and how they need to support the public. Which is why mental health charities do a far better job than the actual healthcare system in the UK because of the decisions from up above.
I mean, I don't want to go too far into the politics, but it makes me sick when you see so many people losing their life to addiction and mental health problems because the system is so massively underfunded, and then you see on a daily basis our government using public money on shit that's nothing to do with us because they don't want to be seen to be inhumane to refugees and stuff. The amount of money that our government are spending at the moment on putting up refugees in hotels. I don't know stats and figures, but from what I've seen clips of, most of the refugees coming across at the moment aren't women and children. It's young men. So
yeah, and
and we're spending money.
I kind of feel like of course that's not a it's certainly a humanitarian issue and it's a humanitarian crisis. However, isn't a large population of UK residents with addictions and ruining their lives and other people's lives around them also kind of a humanitarian crisis in a sense?
Well, yeah, of course it is, and not to say that the refugees don't deserve help, because some of them do, and I get that, but you need to help your own before you start looking at helping others.
Or just help both, dude. It's possible. Both could be helped. There's this really strange kind of concept between, when people look at employment and then blame immigrants, or crime rates and then blame immigrants, like they can both be solved. It's not like there's only budget or resources, in the UK to only help one. But we're led to believe that there is only one option and one side that can be either funded and proactively supported. So I don't think like the lack of support for addiction and mental health is because, we're helping, people, who are coming to the country to seek asylum from war-torn countries. However, I think a lot of people can be excused for kind of pointing to those events and being like, why can these guys get lots of support and we can't? And I don't think the asylum seekers and whatnot and migrants they don't need to not have help in order for people to have, a better support in the mental health system. But why do you think the system is so rubbish? Do they not care? Do they, do the governments and national, is it too expensive? What do you think it is?
I don't think it's a lack of money.
It can't be a lack of money. Did you see like Boris Johnson just had his plane repainted and shit? It can't be a lack of money.
When you've got this virus coming out, and then you've got like the Chancellor of the Exchequer coming out saying, "Oh, we're going to put so much into paying people to do no work." They've got money.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a much higher level control issue. Like the media control what they want you to see. So when the media want you to believe that immigration is a problem because they want you to vote a certain way, they'll put that in the news. When they want you to see all about the stats of how many people are dying from this virus that's supposedly not even that deadly, but they're controlling a population at the moment. They're controlling the globe with this fear of.
I mean, if you can control perception, you control behavior. If you control behavior, you control the world. I mean, that's.
But how often do you hear in the news how poor the mental health services?
Never.
You don't hear of it in the media because the media don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to talk about it. I've got.
Well, they don't really talk about, suicides. You look at local news, you always hear about when there's been a stabbing or when there's been a shooting, or when there's been a tragic car accident, because they love that level of fear, and it sells. Not only does it get clicks on websites, it gets views, and people get hooked into it because it's kind of horrifying, right?
One person jumping off a bridge somewhere isn't.
Well, if anything, they talk about the inconvenience. They report someone jumping off a bridge as a traffic inconvenience. Like, there's this road closed because someone jumped off a bridge, so we're actually just letting you know that you're going to be late to work, instead of it being about. So they can talk about the end of someone's life who's been stabbed or drowned or shot and whatnot, but a suicide victim is a victim. Like, whether you fucking like it or not, a system's failed them, society's failed them. Their experience of being a human being on this earth has led them to piss poor mental health, which has manipulated their behavior, just like you felt when you didn't want to be alive anymore, and then they've gone and done it. That's just as much as a horror show and a spectacle than all of these other deaths being reported. It's and so you're kind of right what you're saying, and I would agree with you. It's not reported on. So it's not out in the mainstream. And I feel that's why actually mental health as a concept is actually on the rise, and the awareness is on the rise thanks to the technologies like the internet, and where the news and the mainstream media is actually no longer the majority of where people get their information from. So that's why we see a lot more movements, a lot more activist movements. Some I agree with and some we don't agree with. No, Stuart, we're not going to get into it yet now.
That's for another podcast.
That's definitely for another podcast. But, I think you're completely right that, if it's not in the mainstream media and it's not out there in the mainstream social media channels, which is normally paid to win now, unfortunately, then it really is only up to charities, right? And
they've only got so much funding.
Exactly.
And not only that, I'm not going to mention names, but I've got a friend who, so I believe that this is, going into the realms of control again, is I believe that this is my belief, okay? Mm-hmm. So no one can be held accountable for my beliefs. It's just my opinion. But I know people who get highly medicated because they get labelled with all kinds of. So the most recent one is personality disorders, borderline personality disorder, bipolar. I had a friend who was almost at the point where he was literally going to be sectioned and labelled as a psychopath. He was that far gone. He was out there. He stopped drinking and has been sober for a long time, and now he's barely on any medication.
Wow.
But when he was on the medication, he didn't get any better. It was only when he took the decision to stop drinking and change his life the way I have that his life got better.
From the
medication didn't fix him.
From the inside out. Yeah, he fixed it from the inside
medication didn't fix him. All these people walking around these psych wards, highly medicated, they don't want them to get well. They want to control the population.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's
but if I say, like, I think you said this to me, if you come out with things like that now, you're just labelled as a conspiracy theorist. And then anything you say is non-believable because it's just a conspiracy theory.
Well, it goes against the mainstream narrative, and that's not allowed. We're not allowed to think for ourselves. That's no way. And actually, this is a thought I had earlier today, was I kind of feel like the government or the people in charge kind of need to decide how much help and guidance people actually need, right? Because if you look at the reaction to the C virus and the micromanaging and the spoon feeding of information and the spoon feeding of what we can and can't do, to the point where it's like they've dumbed down the nation, they've dumbed down the public, they've to the point where it's like they're talking to teenage boys and girls on what to do in a fire drill, right, in a school if the fire alarm goes off. So they absolutely micromanage people's perception and behavior there. But when it comes to mental health and people going into the system, it's kind of like, It's your fucking fault. Stop drinking. What's wrong with you? It's your fault if you're addicted. Like, they need to fucking decide. Do you see what I mean? Like, on one hand, it's like, we're going to put all this resource and effort into treating everybody like idiots and children. But then when it comes to the mental health and addiction side of things, they're kind of out on a limb, right? Kind of out on their own to try and figure out.
It's almost like you've got a kid with Munchausen syndrome, but it's the government telling all of us that we're sick.
Yeah.
And we're being told that's what's wrong with you. But then they don't want to take any responsibility for it.
Yeah, because it's either expensive or resourceful. Who knows? Who knows what?
I don't understand how, they must spend. I mean, this is a theory I've had before, right? I know 90% of people that listen to this would disagree, because I don't drink. If alcohol was discovered now, it would be banned straight away.
100%. 100%. Holy shit! Yeah, of course. Like a lot of substances.
If you watch what it does to people on like a Friday and Saturday night, normal, people going out. Girls get dressed up, they look really nice, they look all presentable. By the end of the night, they're crawling around in puddles, shouting, screaming, punching, kicking blokes.
Well, certainly a specific number of them. not all of them, of course. But however, it does. It's a behavioural change. It's a perception shift.
If that had never been discovered up to this point, and it got discovered today, it would get outlawed straight away.
Yeah,
the government don't outlaw it because they say they make a load of tax on it. I'd love to do it. I'd love to be able to get a study one day together to kind of try and prove this theory of mine. But the amount of money that the government makes on the sale of alcohol, they probably spend more than 50 times that on the public services that have to deal with the effects of alcohol, whether it be police, ambulances, support workers.
I don't think it will take much to get that data. I mean, the NHS probably already have it. It's probably in a database somewhere that's public accessible information. I imagine I've seen a few documentaries. I don't remember the exact figures where they say like there's a certain percentage of incidents in A&E that are to do with drugs and alcohol and whatnot. So that data definitely exists for sure.
You'd have an uproar if the government ever said, "That's it, we're banning alcohol."
Of course,
people would be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, it needs to be a generational change. That's the only way.
It'd be like Trump saying, "We're taking your guns away." The Americans are like, "No, fuck, don't take my guns."
Yeah, I mean,
that's all right.
It could potentially lead to more people drinking. I mean, and that leads to the next question. That I think we might have discussed before. There's a huge movement at the moment trying to get, all drugs, Class A drugs, legalized. And I'm sure you've heard a bunch of theories and stuff about that kind of movement. And it's quite a leftist idea. I haven't decided if it's part of the loony left or just the normal left or just liberal views. But do you think that would be helpful to legalize heroin, cocaine, and all the spicy stuff?
Depends on which side you're talking from. If you're talking from the government, as a control perspective, it'd be great for them because it would mean they'd have more control over it. I'm
kind of coming from the angle of helping drug addicts. Does making if I go down Co-op and just grab some heroin off the top shelf, is that helpful?
It means it's harder for you to realize that it's a problem. Like I was saying earlier about if you want to give up, if drugs are affecting your life and you want to give them up, you delete your dealer's number, you move away from the people that are taking drugs. It's not a social in-your-face thing. With alcohol, you can't do that. So making it legal, you're just making it more easily accessible to everybody. Yeah.
Well,
when I was growing up, like I said earlier, my first go-to was alcohol. because that was the easiest, quickest fix me.
Yeah.
Even at 14, 15, I could get hold of alcohol quite easily. Certain shops didn't care about age, whatnot. I didn't start taking drugs until a lot long after that, because for me, it was a ball ache. Watching my mates, they've got to phone somebody and they've got to go and stand on a street corner and they've got to be all discreet and try and buy the stuff without people seeing. Whereas me, I just go, I'm going to go get a beer and then open the beer, I'm done. It's easily accessible. You make drugs easily accessible to people. You're not going to help any current addicts. You're just going to make it. You're just going to make more.
So you think actually that movement to legalize drugs, drugs, is to actually serve the government and either to make things more profitable or give them more control over it as a commodity?
I don't know if they could make it more profitable. I mean, what are they going to do? Go into business with Pablo Escobar and
just tax
and get it at a bulk price?
Tax people on it. Tax people on it. Who knows? But the thing is,
they've got to become the suppliers, then, haven't they?
It's true. Well, no, I mean, capitalism still exists. There'll be suppliers like anything, right? There are alcohol suppliers. But what would be very interesting to see is, I bet you a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money. But if I did have a lot of money, I'd bet you a lot of money that there are more cannabis smokers in America now than there was when it was illegal.
Oh, for sure.
I bet it's a fucking huge percentage increase.
No, my mum and dad, they drink because it's acceptable to drink. If weed was legal, my mum and dad have smoked all their lives. What's to say that if weed was legal when they were growing up, they wouldn't have smoked weed too?
Yeah.
So my parents, who have always been of the opinion of that's illegal, I'm not doing it. So if it's legal, then it's okay to do it.
Wow, what a wild ride! And the last thing, when are you going to get back into boxing? Are you going to have another fight?
Oh, I don't know, man.
I want to be back in the crowd again, like I was that time.
Oh, yeah, I know, man. But
I was up in the stand.
I've put on a lot. I've put on some weight since I boxed.
You haven't. But I haven't noticed, mate. I haven't noticed.
When I was boxing at like 84 kilos. I think I'm like 100 at the moment, and a lot of the weight that I've put on is muscle mass. So if I was to fight again, it'd be probably like 90 kilos, and I'm not being funny, man, but the guys fighting at 90 kilos are big dudes.
Yeah. And they're not really fighting at 90 kilos. They're not going to be weighing in on the day at 90 kilos. Let's put it that way.
And I think it takes a lot of dedication to fight. When I was doing it, I wanted to make sure my fitness was peak condition, because if you're not fit enough, you get found out as soon as you're in the ring. So I always wanted to make sure I was as fit as I possibly could be, and to do that, you've got to dedicate 3-4 nights a week to training. And I just haven't got that time now, man. I'm busy now. I've got a lot of work on. Trying to run my own business.
Oh, there we go, mate. This is it, from addict and alcoholic to, what, you got like 2 jobs and now like growing your own business as well, man. I mean, that's, do you know what I mean?
Two jobs to start my own business.
It's an inspiring story. And to finish this podcast, I just want to say a quick hi to Nick. Hi, Christoph. We've had a few listeners. You haven't bored everybody to death yet, Stu.
Oh, good.
Which is good for you, man.
We'll have to wrap it up quick, mate, before we...
If anybody was watching this who, falls into the category of an alcoholic or an addict or whatever, what would you say to them right now?
Reach out and talk to somebody. It's the best thing I ever did. To realize that you're not alone. In my darkest days, I thought that the problem was within me. I was the wrong, and I was the bad person, and I was destined to be that person forever. And then when I realized that there was millions of people just like me who think, act, and behave exactly the same way, and they could help me, that's when my life started to turn around. So yeah.
So talk.
Come and talk to me. I'm happy if anyone watching reaches out, drops a comment.
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, that's right. I'll put your phone number in and your address in the description of the video.
The times that I'm out working.
God, can you imagine the queue out the door, mate? It'd be a wild one. It'd have to be a wild party out there. But I would look, Stu. Thanks for coming on, and also this is the first episode, so it's been really good, and we'll have you on again. And
yeah, man.
And we'll chat some more shit. It's what it's all about. But
I've got loads to talk about, man. So
yeah, I do. You got some strong beliefs about some spicy topics, which I look forward to getting into. And if there was one person you could choose to have on this podcast, on my podcast, as a three-way, so to speak, who would you choose? Who would you choose?
What kind of three-way are you talking about?
Wouldn't be streamed on YouTube. Let's put it that way. It would be a different website.
Someone that we could get to, or just anybody?
No, someone we could get to.
Someone who could get to.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you put me on the spot now.
Of course I have. That's what podcasts are for, mate.
Yeah, for sure. I would. You already know what I'm going to say, don't you? Because it's the first one that comes to mind. I really want to have a discussion with someone from Black Lives Matter, and there's a Black Lives Matter group in Exeter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how if it will be there would have to be a way of having a sensible ass discussion, without just shit being flung left and right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it's not about being one against the other. There's an issue at the moment with racism that Black Lives Matter. The sentiment is one thing. The organisation is something different. That there is an issue with racism, and it's not about to have that discussion with that person. It's not about me trying to say that you're all wrong and I'm right and you're left and I'm right, because it ain't like that at all. I'm in the middle. I can be disgusted with things that go on in the world, but just still not agree with someone's policies. And I'd like to be educated by someone who is on the other side.
Yeah, that sounds good. Look, I'll get to work. I'll get that set up. And Stuart, thanks for coming on, man.
It's been a pleasure. Man. Thank
inspiring
you so much.
Story, very inspiring
Stay
story.
blessed.
You're an interesting guy. So I'm really glad that you've come on. That guy that was who you were 7 years ago is most definitely not the fucking guy you are now. The Stuart now is pretty awesome. I'm proud to call you my friend, and I'm really glad to have you on this podcast.
Before we go quickly, can I tell you the so I always used when you said the person I was 7 years ago, I gave him a name.
Wow.
So Stuart, me,
Yeah.
this is me.
Yeah.
I can make this. I can I take my guidance through my higher power, God, and I behave the way I certain behave. Kevin, the douchebag, he's still there in the background somewhere. Yeah, Kevin.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that, man. Oh, you really done yourself over then, mate.
Kevin's always in the background. He's always there waiting for me to slip up.
Right.
And I have to, sometimes I can make decisions and I have to question whether that's Stuart making a decision or whether it's Kevin.
Okay. Well, Stuart's got this. Stuart's the boss.
Stuart's okay. Kevin's a douche.
Exactly. Well, mate, I'll catch you later on, and thanks for coming on.
Stay blessed.
Cheers, man. Right, I need to go turn it off on my computer. What a poorly organised podcast.